Hi everyone, this is Ankita from English Test Solution. Today we're going to talk about question 1 of the TOEFL speaking section. I'm going to give you the structure of question number 1. There are 3 types of question number 1, so I'm going to give you an example of all these types. Then I'm going to give you a template that you can follow to respond to this question. Then I'm going to give you a time breakdown so that you can kind of break down your response and spend a good amount of time on each part of the question. I have audios of my own responses to these 3 questions, so we're going to be listening to that and we're going to be analyzing my response. I'm going to give you additional tips for question number 1, followed by a discussion on what will get you a 26 plus if you need a 26 on the TOEFL speaking section for your professional license. So today we're going to first cover the structure of the TOEFL speaking. There are a total of 4 tasks, 1 independent and 3 integrated. The independent task is the question number 1, and it basically asks you a question and you have to answer it based on your own experience and give your own opinion. You're not given any reading or listening. Integrated task is question 2 to question number 4, and it requires you to combine information from different sources such as reading and listening. I have videos on all these questions, so please check that out. Now, with question number 1, this is the independent task. As I said before, you're given no reading or listening, and you're given a question and you have to respond based on your own experience and opinion. You're given a preparation time of 15 seconds and a response time of 45 seconds. So there are 3 types of question number 1. The first is agree, disagree. The second is the choice between 2 or 3 options. And then the third is the good idea question. So the first agree, disagree question is where they're going to ask you, do you agree or disagree with something? Okay. And then they'll say use details and examples to support your explanation. Or they'll give you a statement and they'll say, do you agree or disagree with it? So in this question, they're saying, do you agree or disagree that students should have a job while they are studying in school? Use details and examples to support your explanation. So that's the first type of question number 1, and this is the oldest type of this question. Now, the second type is where you have to pick a choice between 2 or 3 options. Usually they give you 2 options, but sometimes they also give you 3 options. So don't get surprised. The strategy remains the same. The template remains the same. You have to just pick a choice and support it with your reasons and example. So the example for this question is, some people enjoy taking risks and trying new things. Others are not adventurous, they're cautious and prefer to avoid danger. Which behavior do you think is better? So you have to pick a choice between these 2. One is, do you want to take risks and try new things, or do you prefer to be cautious and prefer to avoid danger? The third type of the question is the good idea question, where they're going to say something and then they're going to say, do you think it's a good idea or not? Use specific details and examples to support your response, something like that. So again, the strategy remains the same, and by the end of this training, you will know exactly what they're looking for in your response, how you can use your template to answer any of these types. So if you get any different type of question number 1, don't panic. It's the same thing. They need exactly the same amount of stuff, and you can follow this template to answer it. So the third example I have here is, nowadays people use extreme methods like surgery to change their appearance. They do this because they're trying to become more attractive. Do you think this is a good idea? Okay, so something like that. Okay, so I'm going to now show you the answer template that you can use. So this answer template really can be used on any question number 1. You need to start by saying, in my opinion, or I think it's better too. Or just, I think that we should do this, something like that. So it's not anything kind of crazy. There are no crazy words here. Whatever comes naturally to you, okay? Especially if you are somebody who needs a 26, I don't want you to memorize a template and end up sounding robotic. Rather, I want you to use this template to really get inspired to give natural sounding responses. So you can just say, I think it's better to do this, or in my opinion, nothing fancy here. Then you have to give 2 reasons and 1 fully developed example. Only 1 fully developed example. But in order to transition to that, use a transition statement such as, I believe so for a variety of reasons, or I think so because of a couple of reasons, or the reason I prefer taking risk is, I have a few reasons to explain this. So I've given 4 choices here, but something like this would work just fine, okay? Now, the reason we have this transition statement is because the listener should be, very clear on your message that, okay, you believe in this, I think in my opinion, and then what are you going to do next? So you're basically making sure they understand that you're going to give a couple of reasons in support of your response. So this is just a transition statement. Then you're going to give your first reason by saying something like first, or you can say just like start with your reason. It's totally fine. Then you're going to give your first example. Remember, now this first example that you are going to give is going to support the first reason that you just gave. Okay? And by supporting the first reason, what I really mean is that whatever reason you gave, make sure that through your example, you prove that that reason is correct. Okay? So this is very, very important because a lot of students ask me if they need to give 2 reasons and 2 examples, but really, if you give 2 reasons and 2 examples, you won't really be able to develop on any of your reasons. So I recommend you give 2 reasons and give 1 example, but make sure that example really proves your reason. Okay, so now, after you have given your first example, you will give your second reason, and you can use words such as furthermore or to add or just say second, something like that, okay? So you can say furthermore, moreover, to add, or second. So this is the format that you need to follow. First, start by giving your opinion. Then transition into the first reason by saying something like, I believe so for a variety of reasons or for a couple of reasons. Start your first reason by just saying first and give your opinion. Give an example that really proves your first reason. And when you're giving your example, you can use words such as a result, therefore, or, words like these really help students as well. Then you're going to give your second reason by saying something like to add or furthermore. Now I'm going to tell you the time management so that you know exactly how much time you need to spend on each of these parts. So when you are starting and giving your reason, it is really one statement, and that doesn't take more than 5 seconds, right? I think it is better to be adventurous and take risks in life. Like not even 5 seconds, or let's say 5 seconds. So that's why it takes only 5 seconds. Then you're going to transition, I believe so for a variety of reasons. So this whole thing really, the start and the transition takes 5 to 7 seconds maximum. Then you're going to give your first reason and first example, and here you need to spend approximately 30 seconds, okay? And the thing here is that you need to spend 30 seconds because you're going to really develop on your first reason. And we talk about topic development in the end of this training so that you know like why is topic development so necessary. So I'm going to give you, so let's say your question is that you like to live in a big city versus small city. So you can start by saying, I love to live in a big city for a variety of reasons. First, I think in a big city, it's easier to find more job opportunities. Okay, so that's your first reason. So when you're giving your example, you have to prove that how were you able to find more job opportunities in a big city. So you can say something like, 5 years ago, I graduated with a master's in English, and I was having a really tough time finding a job. I used to live in a suburb 2 hours away from Washington, D.C., so I made the decision that I'm going to move into the city and see if I can find a job any faster. Once I moved, I found that within a week, I had an interview, and within a month I had a signed offer. So I think that moving to a big city was a great idea because I was really able to kickstart my career, because big city has so many more job opportunities than a small city. And then you only need to spend the last 10 seconds on your second reason. Okay, so maybe your second reason is that the big city allows you to allows you to know more about different cultures. Then you just have to kind of elaborate on the second reason, and you won't have time to give an example, and you shouldn't have time to give an example because you have done a good job in elaborating on your first example itself. So that's how you can really use this time management to answer any question number 1. Remember, if someone tells you you need to give 2 reasons and 2 examples, it's like, I don't even know how will you do it. And if you're doing it, it will be really hard for you to do topic development. Now we're going to actually look into each of these examples, and we're going to listen to my responses so that you know how did I use my own template to answer these questions. So the first question that we're going to cover is this one, the first one. Do you agree or disagree that students should have a job while they're studying in school? Use details and examples to support your explanation. So let me play the response.
I definitely agree with the idea of having a job while students are in school, and there are a few reasons for my opinion. The first reason is that I think it helps students to learn the value of money. For example,
Okay, so I'm going to stop here. So I have clearly already stated that I definitely agree with the idea. So it's just like sounds very natural, and I have stated my idea very clearly that what I believe in. And then I said the first reason is, that students will learn the value of money. Okay, so now you will see how through my example I will prove my reason.
16 years old, I worked at a video shop. I feel like before I started working there, I was always asking for these unnecessary things from my parents. But once I worked and learned the value of money, I started being more conscious of what I asked from my parents. It really taught me that the money is hard earned and we shouldn't waste on the things we don't need. The second reason is that you learn that.
Right, so you saw that through my example, I was able to prove that, like I kind of experienced this, and I learned the value of money. And after working, I myself stopped asking my parents for these unnecessary items. So I kind of gave my reason and developed on it.
Art of teamwork, which will be really beneficial for you in the future and in your career.
See, what I did here, I gave my second reason, and remember the second reason, there's no time to give the second example, so I just kind of explain it really nicely, and I use a little bit like art of teamwork, to give like advanced vocabulary. Now I want to focus here on something called intonation. So a lot of students face the intonation problem where they're basically speaking English, but they sound like they're still speaking their native language, and that's because they're not following the rules of intonation, the highs and the lows of the English language. So by stressing on some of these words, as I said, I was always asking for these unnecessary things, or I started being more conscious. By really stressing on these words, I am trying to create more impact with my message, and it really makes your messaging more powerful, and it's easier for people to understand you. So let's move on to my response to the second question. So the second question is, some people enjoy taking risks and trying new things. Others are not adventurous, they're cautious and prefer to avoid danger. Which behavior do you think is better? So let's listen to it.
I think it's better to take risks and try on new things for a few reasons. First,
so very clearly, I use my template, I tell them exactly, and I tell them for a few reasons so that they know exactly what's coming up next, because the clarity in your response is really important.
I think that we learn more when we get outside our comfort zone. For example, I had never traveled to Europe before, and no one in my family ever traveled without their parents, but I took the courage of doing that, and I'm so happy I did it, because
Did you see how I said, I'm so happy I did it, right? So I'm sounding very energetic, and I'm trying to create more emphasis on few words so that the grader really understands what I'm saying and what are some of the things I want to stress on, I want to focus on.
End of it, I was able to learn a new language, that is Italian. So I feel like I would have never learned it if I didn't take this step to go outside my comfort zone.
Yeah, right. So through my example, you saw that how I proved that going outside my comfort zone really helped me, and it helped me to learn a new language, right? So prove through your reason how it helped you to go outside and take that risk.
Reason is that I think that the extra risk pays us off and rewards us. So if we all do the things that we're comfortable doing, I don't think we're going to have some extra reward. So risk really pays us off.
Okay, then my second reason was that risk pays us off, and I don't have to give an example. I just have to elaborate on that reason so that, the person understands what do I mean by like the extra risk pays us off, right? So if we do things outside our comfort zone and take those risks, it pays us off. Okay, so now we're going to do the next question, which is the good idea question. So the question here says, nowadays people use extreme methods like surgery to change their appearance. They do this because they're trying to become more attractive. Do you think it's a good idea? So Again, whatever the type of question number 1 is, if you know how they are grading you and what you need to give in a response, you will be able to answer it.
I personally don't think it's a good idea to use surgery to change your appearance, and I believe that for a few important reasons. The first is that I believe that people should be confident in their own skin and how they were born, because I feel like if you change one thing about yourself, then maybe after a year or two, you might not like something else and you want to change that. So there is really no end to this issue. And I also think that the surgeries can go bad. So I just feel it's too risky to go for a surgery for this reason.
Okay, so in this case, I did something different. I actually did not give an example for my first reason, but I still did topic development. I still was able to develop on my idea that why I believe it's not a good idea, and I was continuously bringing in new things, okay? It's very important that you're not repeating ideas, but rather developing on those, especially if you need a 26. So even though I did not give an example here, I was able to bring in new ideas and really say, okay, you should be confident in your skin, and I don't think this is gonna, end anywhere, because one day you might not like one thing, another day you won't like something else. So I was like continuously developing on my idea, not repeating the ideas. So without an example too, I was able to do topic development.
The second thing is that I've heard that it costs a lot of money, so I feel like you will be spending money on something you didn't even have to do it in the first place. So that's why I think it's not a good idea.
See? So remember that if you are someone who needs a 26, you don't really need to give a conclusion at the end. There's no point wasting 5 seconds even to say, these are the 2 reasons why I think this way. No need of doing that, but rather use that time to really develop on your idea. So that's actually one of the tips I have for this question, and that is this point number 3 that I just told you about, that no need of a conclusion if you need a 26, rather use that time to develop on your ideas. Now, do not memorize the template, sound natural. So please use these templates to kind of broaden your vocabulary, get some ideas and get inspired. Do not use these templates like something that you have memorized and then go and sound robotic. Then that's not how you're going to get a 26. And you saw that how I was using parts of my template but still managed to sound really natural. No need of giving 2 examples. Yes, that is the biggest myth. I feel like if you need a 26, topic development is really important, and there's no way you can develop on your idea by giving 2 reasons and 2 examples. There's just not enough time to do that. I would rather have you give 2 reasons with 1 example, but that example needs to be fully developed and needs to really, really prove your reason. The last one here is use transition words such as a result or therefore. Really, my goal by saying this or putting it here is really to tell you that use advanced vocabulary. So when you use words as a result and therefore, it just shows like advanced vocabulary, and it helps in the transition as well. So try using these words. But again, as I said, try to sound natural. So really make these words part of your active vocabulary. Now, let's get to the slide that most people find most useful. So, a lot of foreign pharmacists, registered nurses, physical therapists, and teachers in the state of Texas, they need at least a 26 on the TOEFL speaking to kind of get their professional license and start their career in the US. And it has become a problem for many. So I teach my students on how to get a 26, and there's a lot that goes into that. But I will tell you that if you are stuck at 23 or 24 and are feeling frustrated, please don't feel disheartened, because this is really a high score. This is a score that a native English speaker would get if they were to take the exam. So let's start by understanding what are some of the categories that the ETS is grading you on. There's 3 categories. One is topic development, second is delivery, and third is language use. Now, topic development on question number 1 means that you prove your reason. You really develop on your ideas. Okay, so do not be repetitive. No repetition. Rather, use that time to develop on your ideas. Then under delivery, I have fluency. There's a lot of things that go under delivery, such as intonation, pronunciation, fluency. Your message needs to be clear and concise, but I'm going to touch on fluency, and I'm especially going to touch on filler words. So filler words are words such as the, you know, like. Those are the words, and a lot of native English speakers also use these words when they're nervous. But for you on the TOEFL speaking section, just remember that if you use a lot of these words and you stop at unnecessary places, you're not going to be able to get a 26, because the grader will not be able to understand you. So if you want a 26, you really need to reduce the use of these filler words. So the best way for you to know if you are using too many filler words is that if you use it once or twice in your response, that's okay. But anything more than that can really hinder the capability of the grader to understand you, and you don't want that. You want to be clearly understood. You want your message to come across in a clear manner. So please work on your filler words and don't use these words. The last point here is language use. So under language use, there's advanced vocabulary and grammar, and I'm going to touch on grammar today. So a lot of students ask me how many grammatical errors are okay, and the best way to answer is that if you have a perfect response but you make like one grammatical error, it's okay. But if you're going to have a lot of grammatical errors, especially the errors with your tenses that can change the meaning of your sentence, then of course it's going to be hard for you to get a 26, because when you are using wrong tenses, it can really change the meaning of your message, and that's not going to be okay. So definitely, I mean, I think the grammar is one part that you should work on ASAP if you're not already, because grammar plays a big role on TOEFL writing as well. And yeah, so the grammar piece is important, and it is, you know, as I said before, if you have one error really and everything else is okay, it's okay, because it might be just a slip of tongue. But if it's a lot of grammatical errors, it's going to be tough for you. Okay, so these are the 3 things that they're grading you on, and these are some of the things that are under each of these things. So you can work on proving your reason, being fluent by reducing the use of filler words, and improving your grammar. Now, again, there are a lot of things that we discussed today, such as intonation, that is also important, and it falls under delivery. So yeah, so now you know what are some of the types of question number 1, and really what the template looks like, and you can really use this template to answer any of these questions. And then what does the time management look like? That is really, really important. A lot of people, you know, start giving the second example and then they feel disheartened that they didn't have enough time, and they don't get a 26 because they just spent too much time on the second example, which they really didn't have the time for. So I hope this was useful, and yeah, if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I will post more videos on TOEFL question number 2 to question number 4. Thank you and have a good day. Bye.